insights on new product development.
Well, I must say that my intent coming out was not to do a book tour. It's ended up that way in many ways. My original intent was to plug an exec ed course at CMU West, a short flight for you down to Silicon Valley, and it's going to be teaching product development for software. It'll be co-taught with John Kagan, one of the other co-authors on this book. So I'll tell you, well, I'll again plug it at the end. I won't really tell you about the course much because I've got a lot of other content I'm wanting to get through. So anyway, that was the original purpose, and then when I told John I was going to be out here, then he lined up various events, and when I told the PR agent for the book company, Pearson Education, well then, wow, everything started exploding. So it's been a busy week, but a lot of fun. So the material tonight, I really want to introduce innovation and a process for achieving innovation. And so a good starting point is to look at the definition of innovation and think about what it is. A knee-jerk reaction in thinking about what is innovation is technology or an advance in technology. And so then as counterexamples, here's a few products on the screen, all of which have technology in them, but there's something more. So the Motorola Razr. Technology, yes, high tech, but also there's something in that sleek design which has launched it into being a lifestyle icon. The Palm 5, it is technologically identical to its predecessor. This one was, the styling was redone on the exterior to appeal to a different market. The Waffle Baker at the far left of your screen, since not all of you own one of these, this is a KitchenAid appliance. This was modeled after those waffle irons that are in vacation hotels where you can make a waffle on each side. I'm not sure what turning it upside down does for the waffle, but maybe it adds extra fluffiness or something. But you can now bring that experience to your own home. And then the washer and dryer duet from Whirlpool. This was designed for ergonomics and also for visual aesthetics. No longer do you have to hide your washer and dryer in the basement closet, but having it off the kitchen wouldn't be so bad anymore. So all of these are, have some technology component, but there's more than just technology that makes them meaningful. And also, they're all highly profitable products. The Motorola Razr is a $500 phone. The Palm 5 cost $150 more than the identical predecessor. The KitchenAid Waffle Baker provides more money per unit to KitchenAid than their durable goods like refrigerators. And the Whirlpool Duet was in such demand that they raised the price 3 times. So all of these products have really been revolutionary in some ways for making their respective companies think about, what can I do to replicate this as a winning product? Oops, wrong button. Escape. There we go. So thinking about the definition of innovation, technology is certainly a component, but if you think more broadly, what is innovation doing? It's really an advance in customer value. And thought that way, well, yeah, technology has to be a component because new technologies can now do more for us than the old technologies did. They provide new ways of achieving value for us. But if we focus on customer value, it opens up the field of what you can do for customers, but also what you can do in your companies to create value in the marketplace and create profits for your company or for yourself. To try to give you a little bit of an example of this that's less theoretical and more concrete, I'm going to turn to a class project that we did on campus at CMU East. The class, to tell you a little bit about it, it's named Integrated Product Development. It's a class in which we mix mechanical engineers as students, we mix industrial designers, and then marketing students as well. each of those members of each of those disciplines are put together on an innovation team, and we have faculty members from each of those disciplines, plus a fourth faculty member. The fourth faculty member is in organizational behavior, and her expertise is teamwork, because we all come from such different perspectives that a lot of the challenge is learning to understand each other and work well together to move beyond some of the squabbles that naturally occur. So this class is also a sponsored class. The example that I'm giving you here with the sponsor was New Balance, the athletic apparel company. The market dynamics for New Balance were shifting not so much in their favor in one way, in that as Americans become more and more sedate and heavier, that's a bad sign for a company which is focused on athletic products. So New Balance's challenge to us was to create a product that addressed the needs of the overweight market, but was at the same time is consistent with the New Balance brand. And that's the parameters they gave us, and they said, now go for it. Well, if we're really looking at people to understand what are some new ways to meet their needs, let's really look at people. Let's look at individuals. A critique of my own discipline of marketing is that we so often look at some statistics on paper that tell us about a segment or a group, and after you say that there's 48% women in that group, and that they have average income of $42,000. The statistics describe actually no one in the group, because no one's perfectly average. So you know nobody instead of knowing the richness of the people who they are. So Doug's 50 years old, 6'2", 250 pounds. His father recently died of a heart attack, and so Doug is really wanting to exercise some more. He has some hurdles to overcome, back pain and arthritis, but he's actively seeking a way to get back into exercising like he did 30 years prior. We'll skip Bob. Bob was at the bottom of the screen. The product that these students came up with to address Doug's needs is an insole that is embedded with a pedometer. So New Balance already makes these insoles, which is awfully convenient. But the pedometer technology, of course, didn't come in their insole. The pedometer, of course, counts steps through the day, and it wirelessly transmits those counts to a key fob, so you can track how far you've walked. Now, a key insight which led to this product is the notion that exercise doesn't need to be in a dedicated portion of the day where you change clothes, go to the gym, spend an hour, shower, change clothes again, and it really is 2 hours instead of 1. Exercise and healthy lifestyle it's actually cumulative throughout the day. So if you walk enough in your daily routines, you've achieved a perfectly healthy lifestyle. So you may have heard of programs like 10,000 Steps, which are encouraging people to walk more during their daily lifestyles. Of course, if you're trying to set goals, 5,000 steps is quite a bit of steps already. You have to have some kind of pedometer which is helping you track how many steps you're making. I counted my steps during the work of this innovation team from my car to my office, and I felt like I'd parked a long way away, but I don't ever come close to 10,000 steps in a day. So it's a goal, and then as you see how much you do, then you can work towards greater goals and have a healthier and healthier lifestyle. Let's look at this in a little bit more detail. So Doug, he's 50 years old, sticks on his shoes in the morning, goes to work, arrives at work, he leaves his keys on his desk. There's a memory chip that's embedded with a pedometer, so he doesn't have to always be next to the key fob. At lunch, he comes back, updates, he sees he already has 1,000 steps through going from meeting to meeting to meeting. And then when he gets home, he transfers the insoles to another pair of shoes because he's a little bit too cheap to buy 2 pairs of insoles. The students did work out the details of having a security code to wear, kind of like Bluetooth, where it maps to just one product. So if somebody else walks by with the insoles, you don't get the wrong number. Okay, so for those people who wanted multiple insoles, that's also possible. At 5, when he gets home, he then takes the key fob with him, and then halfway through walking the dog, he checks, and he's really pretty close to his goal of 10,000 steps, and so he decides to walk a little further to make sure that he achieves his goal. This goal behavior does really work to motivate people to get extra exercise. As I've talked about this, I've met people who use this kind of program. Some people park at, very far away from the door to the mall instead of close. And then one extreme case, somebody mentioned that when they go to the bathroom, they take the furthest stall instead of the closest one. So very motivating. Now, something that's really important to stress and to notice is that if the focus is really on looking at a comprehensive set of human needs, the details start to matter tremendously. So let's look at a couple of these details. One is that the smooth form of the key fob makes it easy and comfortable to hold in your hand. You don't really have to clip it somewhere if you're walking. It's more convenient there, but if you're wanting to hold it for a time, it's comfortable. Also, the smooth form allows you to quickly put it in your pocket, easily take it back out again. On the bottom of the screen, another detail is key in that this particular market segment's not wanting to advertise their newfound interest in exercise. So rather than having New Balance boldly proclaimed, it's discreetly stamped on the back of the key fob. So this type of product, all these details, thinking ahead of time of what does this individual want, they're wanting an enjoyable product to work with that helps motivate them, that's easy to use, that's comfortable, that's discreet, nobody sees the insole. The key fob looks like normal kinds of things people put on their key, so it's hidden away. All these things work together because there's so many values which are touched on simultaneously to create the kind of product experience which is highly cherished by today's customers. Now, technology is there, of course. In fact, the student team was quite diligent in working out the details of the technology, making sure that it was low enough power to where they would have a very tiny battery that would last the lifetime of the insole. Bluetooth, for instance, they couldn't use it because it was too hungry for power, so they had to use other wireless technology. Right. So it's very much here. I don't want to de-emphasize technology at all when thinking about opportunities today, but I just want to augment the world of products for you and services and thinking about human needs and not technology alone. So to summarize what we've talked about so far, or what at least I've talked about so far, is this basic analogy. So there's an analogy. The way this works is problem is to solution as blank is to problem. And then if this were on an SAT exam, for instance, there would be 4 different choices, and you'd have to pick the word which goes in the blank. But thinking about the first part of the analogy here, you never really work on a solution without having a problem. It's nonsense. If you have a problem, well, you really think about that problem, and figuring out what the problem is most of the battle, of course. But once you have the problem, you analyze it from different directions, and you might think of many, many solutions, and you pick the best solution. Well, in the same way, there's no reason to work on a product until you understand an opportunity. And if you dissect and analyze the opportunity, you might think of many products that will achieve that opportunity, and then it's a matter of picking the best product out of the set that you've done. In our course, this is an example of what was the outcome of this particular of one team's work. In our course, it's 16 weeks on campus. The very first 8 weeks, half of the course, we do not allow the students to talk about product. We only allow them to research people and explore opportunities out in the marketplace for what people's needs are changing that might be consistent with, like, the athletic company of New Balance. Only after they've done 8 weeks of research do we allow them to use the word product and to start thinking, now how am I going to do that? I see all these needs. How am I going to achieve that? Well, products are fulfilling that opportunity. So that was a tool that can be embedded in a product development process, at least early on, to help design an innovative product. So we have multiple tools put in sequence to develop innovative products. And I want to link this to product development processes which are currently out there, because product development processes already exist and they're already quite refined and quite efficient. So PDP stands for Product Development Process, by the way. And in the manufacturing world, the Rust Belt type of world, which I live in Pittsburgh, every manufacturer has some kind of stage gate process. This came out of the total quality management movement 20 years ago. 20 years have passed. Everybody has one. They're great for the purpose that they serve. Get product out the door quickly, make sure it's high quality, and low cost. We're not trying to change any product development process because this functions beautifully for those purposes. But what's happening in the world of manufacturing is that companies are great at making something if you tell them what to make, but what's going to be the differentiator is figure out what to make in the first place. So, thinking historically, costs in the 70s was an opportunity. Quality, TQM, was in the 80s and 90s. Now everybody's caught up. Quality and cost, at least for manufacturing, are commoditized. And so now they've got to think about innovation as the key to profit margins. So what we're working on, what we do is emphasizing innovation up front in the process, so you know what to work on later with your efficient process. And this is where, like in our class, half the effort of our class goes into the upfront part to figure out what to work on. So we're very excited about these innovation methods and tools, and are trying to change industry and students' perspectives in numerous ways. Books in the back is one of the ways. On campus, I've already mentioned this IPD course multiple times. And then again, another plug for CMUS, November 1st through 3rd. It's a course that we're putting together specifically for software developers to teach product development in the software world. We also do on-site training where basically we run an IPD-like class but with company employees, where before class we would work with you to figure out what project is that you would like to work on within your company, and then come in and teach you our methods and processes, and then over time after class would check back in and grade you or offer comments and feedback on what you've done and update things. Consulting, we've also done work on refining product development processes for businesses and aligning products and brand strategies. So summary, lessons I'd like you to take away. Innovation, think more broadly. Think of it as a leap in customer value and not just technology. If it's about customer value, start by studying your customers. That's the opportunity. Don't start with the mentality of, I'm going to create a new product. It sounds nice in class, it sounds easy in class to say, oh yeah, it is about the opportunity. But company after company, take International Truck for example, their mentality was, well, we have a process, we need a new vehicle, what new truck are we going to make? And as they move through their process, it's, well, we want a new truck, and the next decision is what size engine to put in it, what chassis, etc. How do they make those decisions? They don't have any goals necessarily to achieve except cost goals, and costs end up driving every decision along the way as they make their trade-offs. With this type system where you set up human goals, it's not necessarily what truck am I going to make, but what needs am I going to fulfill, and then that can guide everything that follows. You may not even make a truck in the end. Product development processes, another point is that product development, or let me back up, say innovation. I'll do these subpoints because I think they make a little bit more sense. Innovation is not just luck, sitting in a room, magically coming up with something on your own. Maybe there's some Da Vinci's that float around these days, but most of us are pretty ordinary, and we have some depth and some great ideas, but by collaborating and working with others, we have more, and by doing research and diligent work to focus on what the opportunity is, now we've got a marketable product. if it's a process, if it's work, it's something that you can learn, it's something that can be taught, it's something you can implement wherever you are in your companies, which is also very good news because then you can go change your world. Thank you. I guess I should do Q&A right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So questions? Yes.
How much of a factor was the fact that you had these multidisciplinary teams working on the problem at the same time?
Oh, it's a huge factor. So I mean, it's important to so multidisciplinary teams. If we had one discipline by itself, they would miss a lot of the important details as they're studying their customers because they have a lens from which they're viewing. The joke among ourselves as 3 co-authors on the book was the same. If any one of us had written this book, it would have been terrible. But by working together, pulling the ideas, you rise above. However, multidisciplinary is not enough. You don't just stick 3 great minds in a room and just hope something happens. What do they do all day in their daily jobs? So both are very important.
You had somebody coordinating these people together, or was it more?
Oh, yeah. So that's another part of our system is that we don't just teach and let the teams do their own thing. We have weekly meetings with every single team for half an hour. And so they've got a whole committee of 4 professors who are every week listening to them make their presentation on what they've done and challenging them and guiding them. So there's that as well, which I think isn't a part, I think that's not really a part of many product development processes yet, to have some overseer who everybody's reporting to on a regular basis. But I think that also may really augment the innovation process.
I asked you that question was because when you move to the software industry in particular, you have very short product cycles, for example, and at least in some areas of software. And here you have the advantage of having a semester or a quarter at least to have all these 3 disciplines work together and spend time on each other, with each other.
Well, I don't know what your product cycle is from start to finish. This particular workstation for the truck was completely done in 16 weeks, starting with no idea. Now, since that 16 weeks finished, we have helped International do some extra marketing research, but they've now made, with that extra marketing research, they've confirmed, yes, this is a good idea. Now they're moving into figuring out exactly how they want to implement it. But 16 weeks from no idea to a product which they can move forward with is pretty quick. So it doesn't have to be slow. Yes?
What is the professional experience of students in class?
0.
Okay, so when I think about this in this kind of environment, when you have multidisciplinary students in class who have no professional experience and have no they have no experience with a process. You put them into an environment and they learn the process just by going through the course. But in the real world, you come to work and you're working with people of all different age levels, different experience levels. They've lived through TQM and all of those innovations. And how do you get organizations that have experienced people, experienced professionals to adopt what to some people can be a really different type of development?
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question at least for the camera's sake, but I'm going to also check me on it. Okay. In our class, everybody starts out the same level, the same inexperience level, so they're all equals, and we as dictators are imposing a system on them, and they say yes, yes, yes. In a company, you have an existing culture, an old culture that has evolved from who knows where, and to then suddenly adopt a new culture is one hurdle, but also the different levels of experience of the individuals is a second hurdle that's thrown in and a challenge to doing this kind of innovation work. I mean, we have an organizational behavior professor to help address those challenges. So one thing is that what companies often do is to set up innovation teams where they would pull members out of their daily job. Kind of, mechanical engineers do this system all the time where you pull people around and bid for them Okay, so this is Procter & Gamble, for instance. They set up innovation teams, put together multiple people on a team for a defined amount of time. Those people, I don't know exactly their hierarchy system, but then by coming out of their day jobs into a different position, that would help partly change the culture. In addition, the companies which do these kinds of innovative products, there's support from high up for establishing that kind of culture. International Truck got a change in president, which changed their direction to allow us to help move them and motivate this in the direction. A third thing is showing. When we show that these naive students, basically we had students design their whole next new truck, which is coming out in 2008. Whole truck, I mean the interior of the whole truck, not all the engine and everything. Well, that's pretty astounding. And International has come back and said, you know, we'd like to do more of this. We'd like to embed this in our own culture. It's not just International. I saw a quote from Ed Zander of Motorola who said, you know, the biggest news about the Razr isn't that it's making profits, it's that it's revolutionized internally our company. Now we recognize that's the kind of thing we need to go for when we're making our product. So these are some guiding things. Really, there's a lot of challenges there that I'm not sure I know exactly what to do about them.
I'd be interested to know if the organizational behavior is looking into how to incorporate this into.
Well, I can certainly set you up with her, sure.
Yeah. The other thing I was wondering about is who would own patents on some of the ideas that came from the truck?
The way we design our agreements with our companies is very generous for the company. By the way, if you want to sponsor a class, we can do that. But we give the company 6 months to decide whether to proceed with a patent or not. If they choose not to in that 6-month period, then intellectual property rights go to Carnegie Mellon. If they do proceed, then they pay each student, I think, a $1,000 fee, which is pretty nominal, and they have full patent rights. Carnegie Mellon owns nothing. International Truck is patenting, I think, 3 of the 5 projects that we worked with them. Okay. Yes?
How do you crush a 16-week course in 3 days among the classroom?
Well, we don't. That's why we have ongoing relationship after the 3 days to refine and modify and continue to guide.
So what happens in the 3 days?
The 3 days would be going in depth. So this was a little taste. The 3 days would be teaching a little bit more depth, more case studies, but then also hands-on where with that, whatever project the company chose, it would be hands-on, giving some assignments to think of these dynamics and then get together and discuss and different tasks like that. Work on the value opportunity analysis, thinking of what are the people like, to give people a flavor of what's involved in those sessions. Yes?
I actually remember taking a class about 9, 10 years ago with Matter.
Yeah.
And it's a good class. Like when you're going over here, it makes a lot of sense. It seems a lot like the stuff we did 9 years ago. I didn't know if there were any insights that you think that Carnegie Mellon was teaching this class for several decades now. It kind of has some breakthrough ideas on that I wouldn't have learned 10 years ago that you guys are teaching now.
Well, I don't think that it's really something, it's not rocket science in the sense that, wow, nobody would have ever dreamed of doing this. It's simply a matter of many companies aren't necessarily doing it. They have standard practices, and so it's a wake-up call that we offer. These also, we formalized a lot of these tools, so when you were taught this in class, you might have gotten the content of instruction, but not necessarily the exact formal tools that were used here. So these came out of a textbook which was written after you took that class. So it's been, out of experience, we're able to teach the students and they would see ways that are refined to make the choices. And the actual choices that are making matter tremendously. I was at an industrial design conference giving a talk on this material with my co-authors, and one of the designers raised her hand and said, well, Many times we've tried to have a class like this, but then we make a product which is absolutely so expensive that you can nobody would ever want to make it. The types of choices of making these trade-offs come through, not necessarily my experience, because I've only taught it for a few years, but the wisdom of going through a long sequence of this. My collaborators have been teaching it for 12 and 13 years. So there's many subtle cultural aspects that are imbued that aren't necessarily directly taught. So part of this is what I'm saying is this is known and out there. IDEO does methods like this. Procter & Gamble's doing things like this. It's not that we're bringing you something necessarily new, but the winds of change right now in the marketplace are focusing on innovation methods. So it's ripe time for doing this if you aren't already. Yes, in the back.
In your book, you mentioned that you provide fulfill customers' fantasies by providing them with an experience that is contrary to the current experience or the current reality. Now, we're working with several products where, Excel, for example, it's been around for 15 years, and for a particular segment of customers, already providing, I think it's already providing the best experience for a particular segment. So, how do we deal with that dilemma as to, over-fantasize it or provide something else? I'm not sure if I'm referring to, the whole concept of providing fantasy.
Yes. And the question was, now that you've got a mature Excel, what do you do to augment it? Go back and look how people are using Excel. You look at open source coders who are contributing ideas to some related arena. See what types of solutions people are doing for themselves. Then do it better. Take a step back and say, what were they really trying to achieve for themselves? This would be the kind of thing you could do to get new ideas to update an older product. And old products can be updated or even changed dramatically. The Swiffer, for instance, mop industry, certainly it was a tired old industry, and the Swiffer came out a very different solution. So, so I don't know for Excel. I can't tell you. I mean, right here in 5 minutes, come up with a brilliant idea is not going to be possible. But it's, start over and look at research and think about, walk through this and see what happens. Yes.
So for the past few years, Apple has people always talk about how Apple is one of the most innovative companies out there.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I know about Apple, both from people I know who work there as well as professional experiences, they don't do anything like this.
Okay.
And is it simply attributed to the lone genius of Steve Jobs and his ability to be autocratic and tell everybody to do a certain thing, and the fact that he's right, or do you see that there's something else at play, or are we just completely wrong?
I don't know what Apple does. I don't have enough insight into their process, which they work on keeping. You know a whole lot more about Apple, I can assure you, than I do, so I can't really answer that. So I'd love to hear your answer at some point.
Well, I know we were at a VIP dinner in Silicon Valley 2 days ago, and that was one of the topics that came on, and they were talking about Steve Jobs and some of the things that they do at Apple, and they're talking about this innovative process with them, and they certainly don't want other people to start using this innovative process. They like having a corner on some of that.
Yes.
So one question I had was, when you give your students most of these projects, it looks like the opportunity map is already pretty constrained here. So for example, in your first one, the New Balance one, the company itself actually gave you a pretty constrained demographic to work with. Same with the truck.
That's important.
Who does that part, right? I mean, it looks like that is a pretty critical part of
That actually is a critical part to have some strategic vision for the firm. Okay. And we've worked with the companies to brainstorm ideas of directions, because starting with nothing, where you could, you could spend an eternity studying all that's happening out in the world. So there has to be some degree of boundaries to even start the vision off. If it's too constrained, well, then there's not going to be that much opportunity So like with New Balance, I think the best thing is to look at the examples to get a feeling for the level of generality. New Balance, they had 3 challenges to us. One was what I've already showed you, overweight market because of the changes in the demographics. A second one was to really look at their core market, which is middle-aged women, because they want to continue pleasing their loyal followers. The third that they had is they had recently acquired a small company named Warrior Lacrosse, who made lacrosse shoes, naturally. Well, this was the very first time New Balance had any shoe that had cleats on it. So they were thinking now, okay, what do we do with cleats? So cleated sports was, and they weren't even necessarily saying shoes, okay? Just something addressing cleated sports was the third. So that was because of an acquisition. Now, how does that change the company? That's kind of a very strategic level. Yes?
You're talking about how the businesses that you go into don't have this type of culture in there. And you introduce this innovation process, and they're influenced by it. They're doing patents and taking those ideas. Do you see, are you following long-term effects of whether it actually creeps into the culture, or is it just a spike that you see?
Oh, I'm realizing I'm moving out of the nicely lit area for the, sorry. It's really what's going to happen is it's going to be like the Motorola Razr. If it's a success, if the products that we've worked with them, it's highly visible in the company. Everybody's watching. If this truck that we've helped develop, if it's a marketplace success, then I think that the changes are going to very likely stick. If it, by chance, I mean, innovation's always risky. You know, we don't have guarantee. This is, I don't want to present this as a checklist, innovation for dummies. Do step 1, step 2, step 3, and money rolls in. Right? It's not the way it works. So you know, we'll have to see. I think if this truck fails, they're gonna change presidents, okay? And then it'll be whatever the next president decides he wants to do will be what will happen. Sadly for us, this truck won't come out until 2008, so we have a ways to wait until we see what happens. Yes.
Just kind of follow up on your comment. So what, I'd be interested to hear an example in your mind of a spectacular, innovative product that failed spectacularly well.
Well, the problem is we don't necessarily know about them because they failed and are gone. There is a book called Products That Fail, which a grad student has read, but I haven't, and she's told me about it. I should read it sometime to try to find some of those. Yes, you have.
Your example of the Palm is a product that had initially failed, and it was an Apple product.
Yeah, the Apple Newton. Yeah. So you could call that spectacularly innovative because we know after the fact that other like products succeeded, but still the success that we see makes us confirm that that was innovative. So there's this circular reasoning that if we know about it, we're biased, otherwise it disappears.
Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, in the end, sorry.
You mentioned that your teams are cross-dimensional, because people come from different areas, and it looked like people were doing a lot of different things. Can you speak to some of the communication techniques that you use to keep people obsessed and they communicate progress throughout the week?
So communication in terms of learning to get along, like good types of dissension rather than bad types, that kind of teaching, or communication. Could you help me out?
Well, it looked like, well, do you have more of a centralized, kind of everybody kind of feeding their ideas into one presentation at a time, or did you have people kind of going around and saying, well, here we're doing this, trying to get a sense of, was the communication kind of like a spoke in the wheel, or was it more kind of circular, people kind of talking to the problem?
I would say it's probably a little bit more linear in that each week we give assignments, and they probably go in lots sorts of directions and circles and all that kind of stuff, but they've got to focus it down and come to some kind of consensus for us by the end of that week when they're presenting to us what they've done. So, there's lots of exploration, of course, but then there's a progression stepping back a little bit. I don't know if that answers at all what you're going towards. Sorry.
Okay, well, thank you very much,
Right.
Dr. Boatwright.